What's up, Mongoose here. Today we're going to be going over how Newton's 3 laws of motion affect you in your daily life in the fitness and lifting world. This is partly because I have a physics project on it, but it's also partly so that you can learn about how force interacts with your daily life. Here we go, I'll roll the video. Hello Goose Gang. Today on Learning with Goose, we're going to be going over Newton's 3 laws of motion. Now you're probably wondering what this has to do with fitness, but actually it has a lot more to do with fitness than you can imagine. Anytime you move, you're exhibiting at least one of his 3 laws of motion. Now you're probably wondering what these 3 laws of motion are, so here we go. The first law is an object at rest tends to stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. Now, this means an object at rest, say, your deadlift, is going to stay there until it's acted upon by an outside force, you. And that force is pushing you to the ground. We'll get to that later. Also, this law also deals with objects that are in motion. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. Now this you can see as that tire rolling down the hill and hitting me, and then made me move, and the tire slowed down, and that's why it slowed down, because of me, that outside force. Cue the tire clip. I got an eraser. Alright, so then we have second, hold on, I'll fix this later. There we go. Now the second law is velocity, which most people think of as speed, changes when it's subjected to an outside force. Now this you can also think of as your deadlift, where its velocity here, there we go, that velocity is 0, and then when you pick it up from here to here, it had some kind of velocity. Hopefully it was fast, so maybe 5 miles per hour. So that's his first law in action, or second law. And then lastly, we've got his third law, because 3 comes after 2. You might be thinking why he had to come up with so many laws, but three's enough, right? And it says, every action, also known as force, creates an equal and opposite reaction. Now you might want to take this as, the whole hipster 2019 thing where it's like, oh, you shouldn't do this or else this thing bad will happen, but that's not actually what it's talking about. It's really talking about, when you have a squat, so try drawing a squat person, right? Here's your bar, that's you, and your legs. And so your action, you going down, has an equal and opposite reaction, which is the ground pushing back up on you. And that's kind of what it means. It's like, so if you push something some way, the other thing pushes it the other way, and if it's not equal, it's gonna move. So we'll go over that in the demo. So there's your basics of the 3 laws of motion, and now we'll show you what exactly we're talking about. Okay, so the first law, again, is an object at rest tends to stay in rest unless acted upon by an outside force, and in the same way, an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. So we'll give you an example of that. So this bar is going to stay right here unless I push it. That's an example of the first law, because it's staying at rest unless acted upon by an outside force, me. Now, other words, we can take this ball, and this ball is going to keep moving and rolling unless acted upon by an outside force, which, either it's going to be my hand stopping it right here, or it's going to be friction against the ground because of gravity, which is like right here. Actually, the bar stops it, but friction slowed it down. It would eventually stop. For the second law, its velocity changes when an object is subjected to an outside force. So right now, the 2 forces it's got on it is gravity that's pulling it down, and then it's also got the force of the floor that's keeping it from going straight to the center of the earth. So now it has a velocity of 0 because it's not moving. And then when I come, an outside force, and I pull it straight up, its velocity changes. Now that it's sitting right here in my hands, the velocity again is 0 because equal forces. And then when the outside force comes, when I leave my force and gravity takes over, it goes back down. And that's more velocity. So that's the second law. For his third law, Newton states that every action or force exerted creates an equal and opposite reaction. So to visualize this, you can think of every lift, but squat might be easier. So when you go and you take it, so right now it's both pushing down and it's pushing up. Now when I let my legs go, gravity is going to take over and the bar is going to go down. And then when I push back up with my legs, it's pushing it both upwards and into the floor. So it's both pushing this way and it's pushing this way, equal and opposite reaction. Now, so to think of also is with the deadlift, since you're pushing against the floor, but the thing you're pushing is lighter than the amount of force you're exerting, that thing is going to move upwards with you. So that's it. That's all 3 laws of motion, and that's how you use them in your daily life and in the fitness world. Hope you guys enjoyed, and that was the first episode of Learning with Mongoose.